We are in 1 Peter chapter 3. Hope you open your Bibles up there, 1 Peter chapter 3. Again, we're dealing with some really practical and useful instructions, like some instructions of the Bible aren't useful. They're all useful, but really, they come into our lives. And here, Peter deals with husbands and wives. He deals, first of all, with wives and gives instructions to wives, specifically wives who are married to men who are not Christians. It says in verse 1, "Likewise, wives, be subject to your own husbands, so that even if some do not obey the word, they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives." I think one of the things that women who are married to non-Christians, one of the main things they want to do is, how do I influence them to become a child of God? And he tells them that they are to do this in verse 2 by being respectful and pure in conduct. "Do not let your adorning be external, the braiding of the hair and the putting on of gold or jewelry or the clothing that you wear, but let your adorning be the hidden person of the heart with the imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which in God's sight is very precious." And to husbands, he says this in verse 7, "Likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as to the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of God, so that your prayers may not be hindered." Austin, what do you see there?
Well, I wanted to zoom in on what Mark talked a little bit about in verses 1 and 2. These wives that are married to unbelieving husbands. It's interesting to me that Peter here says you need to still continue to live like a godly child, even if your husband is not faithful. You need to be faithful. And the reason for that is because your influence, your godliness can influence your husband. They can see what you're doing. They can see how you are trying to live, and that can have an impact on them. And so in verse 2, when they see your respectful and pure conduct, being godly can be a great evangelistic tool. And while he focuses in on wives here, I think this is an application for all of us. Our lives can be evangelistic for those who see us. If we are living godly lives, we can have an impact on someone. It just happens here that he's talking specifically about wives with unbelieving husbands. I think that's something we need to remember.
Yeah, and I like to focus on verse 7 to husbands. Like you just said, Austin, while there's a specific application here to husbands, there is a general lesson that everyone can learn from this. And the message to husbands really is, follow the golden rule with your wife. Treat them the way you want to be treated. First of all, he says, live with them in an understanding way, which has always been, what does that mean? I think that means think about them and grow to understand them. Grow to learn about who they are, how they think, and respond accordingly to them. And he says that they are to show honor to the woman as to the weaker vessel. He is the head of the family, Ephesians chapter 5. But even though he is, and she's in what would be considered there a weaker position because she's submitting, he is to show her honor. He's to lift her up because of the role that she's fulfilling. Any of us who are married know that our wives are incredibly valuable to our family. And the things they do are so very important. And I love this phrase that's found in the latter part of verse 7, that he is to remember that they are heirs with you of the grace of life. Though the man is the head of the household, his wife is just as valuable, just as much of an heir of God as he is. Just as valuable in the eyes of God. And he needs to respect her and honor that. And he says if he does not, if we don't, our prayers will be hindered. So treat her in a way so that your prayers are not hindered. We need to show general kindness to everybody, respect other people, treat them the way we want to be treated, so that we can, as you said, have an evangelistic spirit. Well, that's it for today. Tomorrow is going to be a holiday, and many of you will be with your families. You may be traveling. God bless you. Be safe. Remember God in your life tomorrow, every day of your life. If you have a comment that you'd like to make on this text, we'd love to hear from you. Write it down on Facebook in the comments below. We'd love to hear any comments you have, questions that you've got. God bless. Be safe.